Welcome to this new video, the 8th episode about creating a bathroom. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, I've made a playlist for the occasion. You can find the link in the description. You'll find the previous episodes there, especially the last one where I did the plumbing and the taping on the ceiling. With the ceiling installed, I taped the joints, filled the tapered edges, and filled in the screw heads. I told you to be careful with the taping, but making a perfect joint isn't necessary since the whole ceiling will be skim coated later. So that's what we're going to see in this video, and I'll try to answer as many questions as possible since every time I talk about skim coating, you have a lot of questions. So why paint a wall or a ceiling? Can you paint directly on a plasterboard? What should you do if the skim coat forms bubbles? Should you make the holes for the recessed lights before or after applying the skim coat? Which compound should you use for skim coating? Is it the same for the joint tape, the roller, the knives? I'll try to answer all your questions. What I'm going to explain applies to both ceilings and walls. So if you're installing tiles on your wall, don't skim coat the whole wall. It's pointless, absolutely pointless. You only need to do the joints. In my case, it's a ceiling. The goal is to skim coat it completely, to hide the imperfections of the drywall, cover the joints, and most importantly, to have the same finish everywhere. So you can't see the difference between the drywall and the joints anymore. Now you might ask me, what imperfections? A drywall panel with a smooth finish can be painted directly. Every time I talked about skim coating, I got inappropriate comments like, what you're doing is useless, you're wasting your time, it's nonsense. You can paint directly on a drywall panel. So I prepared a scrap piece of drywall for you. Half coated, half raw drywall. You can clearly see there's paper covering the drywall. Underneath, it's very fuzzy. You're going to sand your joint. Most of the time, we slightly damage the drywall panel so it ends up looking like this. It's really ugly. And when you go to paint, what's going to happen? Your joint will be perfect since it's made of very fine compound, so it won't really absorb the water from the paint. But the paper will absorb all the water from the paint. And what's going to happen then? It's going to create a texture, a raised surface. You'll see this texture. You'll even feel it when you run your hand over it, unlike the joint compound. And all this texture that you'll see on the drywall, you won't see it on the joint compound because the compound absorbed less water from the paint and it didn't create any texture. And that's why most of the time you can see the seams. Even if you have a perfectly flat seam, you've leveled the tapered edges well, there's no bump, there's no dip, but you still get this texture that appears on the drywall and not on the seam. That's it. So in the end, you end up with two totally different finishes. The drywall is all rough and grainy and the seams are smooth. Even if you put on 5 coats of paint with a long nap roller to create texture everywhere, it will just give you a slight stucco effect. It's really very ugly. Do you actually want a stucco finish on your walls or ceiling? I doubt it. If we're using joint compound, we're aiming for a smooth result. And even with several coats of paint, you can still see the flaws in the tape and the drywall since a sheet of drywall is full of imperfections. Between transport, storage, and handling, it's going to get dents and marks and you might not even notice them. But as soon as you start rolling on the paint, all the imperfections will show up. So in the end, this solution of only doing the joints isn't economical at all because you'll do your joints, put on a coat of paint, and then you'll realize there are a lot of imperfections. I fix it again with filler, then paint again, and so on. And it never ends. A bucket of filler costs much less than a bucket of paint. So do the entire surface, whether it's a wall or a ceiling. First coat of paint, if there are small imperfections here and there, you fix them. A light sanding, clean it well and apply 2 coats of paint and it's done. Now, to finish with the seams, sometimes you can see them. When there's not enough filler, it creates a dip. When there's too much filler, it creates a bump. And if they're not sanded properly, you can see all the imperfections. Take the time to do things right. Be careful when doing your seam. Then use a putty knife and check if there are any dips or bumps. Sand it and make sure to remove all the dust. It's very important to get rid of as much dust as possible. And then you do a full skim coat to hide all the imperfections in the drywall and also to cover the seams. And between us, skim coating is actually really enjoyable to do. So now let's talk about bubbling. That bubbling everyone worries about, that scares everyone, but really there's nothing to worry about. So always do a test in a corner, whether it's a new drywall panel or a wall that's already been painted. You do a small area and see how it reacts. On a new drywall panel, normally there shouldn't be any bubbling. In my case, the panels are new. We're going to apply the compound and there won't be any bubbling. So if you do get some, it's either because you're using a very poor quality compound or you're applying it too thick. There's no point in putting on a centimeter all at once. To apply a thick layer of compound, select the right type and importantly, do it in several passes. So, if your wall or ceiling has already been painted and the surface is too sealed and you apply the compound directly over it, yes, you might get a bubbling effect. since the water won't be absorbed by the wall, especially because of the paint that was applied before. So the coating can't breathe and the air will have to escape somewhere. So it will come out through the coating, bubbles will appear, and it's going to be a disaster. So, if you've done too large an area and you didn't notice it right away, don't touch anything, just let it dry. You can fix it by scraping off the bubbles and patching it up with some coating. Then you apply another coat with a roller, smooth it out, and so on. If you notice it right away, of course, you scrape off the excess. Let it dry. A thin layer of coating remains, and here you have two options. Either you apply a primer, so you prime your entire wall, let it dry, and then you apply the coating. Or you can also apply a primer coat of compound. A very thin layer of coating over the whole wall with a drywall knife. Let it dry thoroughly, and then apply the coating with a roller. So regarding the heating, that's actually a pretty important point, and you can't just do whatever you want. Don't turn the radiators up to full power thinking that with 50 degrees it will speed up the drying process of the coating. That's a big mistake. You won't even have time to smooth the compound before it's already dried. And on the other hand, if it's too cold, that's not good either. Your coating will take too long to dry. Keep the temperature between 15 and 20 degrees in your room. That's more than enough for the coating to have time to dry properly. And if you don't have a construction heater, do like I did, rent one. I rented a construction heater with a gas bottle and it works great. Now let's discuss the spotlights. Previously, you've seen me make ceiling holes before applying joint tape and coating. I've often heard people say it's pointless to do the joint tape and coating before drilling the holes. So I don't pay attention to that kind of comment because they're from people who don't think things through and can't see the bigger picture. Unfortunately, you find the same kind of people in different trades. When everyone is gathered together on a work site, nobody communicates, nobody thinks ahead. There's always a disaster, so in my case, the disaster would be not being able to reach a conduit under the false ceiling. If I can't access the attic or there's a slab above, after finishing the plaster, I have to scrape it off or cut out drywall to get to a conduit. When all I needed to do was make the hole and get to the conduit. If we can't do it because it's coiled up or stuck in a hanger or furring channel, we can access the screws since there's no plaster yet. We unscrew one side of the panel, we grab the conduit, we pass it back through the hole, and everything is fine. So all of this is called planning ahead. You always have to think ahead on a job site to avoid certain problems. Now that we've covered everything, I'll show you the compound we'll use. You've seen it before. It's here, along with the roller, smoothing blade, and extensions. So, I'm not a big fan of extensions because I prefer to be close to my surface, whether it's compound or paint. However, you have to admit that with extensions, it goes a lot faster. We'll begin without the extensions and finish with them, so you can compare both versions. The compound is here, like I said, it's Tout Précaché Bleu. It's a finishing compound that's already well known in the world of plastering. I've already used it in the past, so I know it's excellent. There will be 0 bubbles with this compound. So, extra fine, excellent glide, easy sanding. It's a 20 kg bucket and you can cover about 40 square meters with just one bucket. You'll find the link in the description. I invite you to check it out. As I said, it's a benchmark in the world of finishing compounds. The roller, the perfect tool, is the roll and do it. I showed it to you in the previous video. It's a nylon roller. Same thing, link in the description. It's really suited for compound application. You dip it in the bucket, apply it to the ceiling, smooth it out, and it cleans up really well. Then, the blades are available from different brands. This one, same thing, it's the perfect tool. But there are different brands and different sizes. I'm going to use the 40 cm one, it works perfectly for me. They also come in 60, 80 and even 1 meter. But for what I need to do, 40 cm is perfect. And like I was saying, there you go, the extension poles. You see, you can attach the blade to the extension, both feet on the ground, and smooth everything out. And it's the same for the roller. This extension pole, the brand is Nespoli, it's written here. And if you don't have one, you take an old broom handle for the roller, both feet on the ground, and you roll it on. I'm going to use the exoskeleton. I showed it to you in the previous video. Both arms in the air, I'm not struggling at all. And I'm going to keep using it for sanding. I'll have a machine, and at the end of the video, I'll give you a debrief with the machine to tell you how it went. The compound is well mixed. We're going to load our roller with filler. We'll dip it well into the bucket of filler for the first few rolls since it's new. We'll press firmly and then we'll need to load it less for the rest. So here, you understand that you need to load it well because we're just starting. I'm spreading it now because it feels like it's about to drip. We're working with a fairly thin coating. So here, we're really going to load it up, load the board. So there's no point in going crazy and rolling it on with big strokes. It really doesn't help at all. We distribute the compound evenly. Anyway, once the roller is properly loaded, it'll go much faster. But right now, since it's new. The goal is uniform thickness throughout. I can feel the exoskeleton helps me a lot here. I'm not carrying the weight of my arm in the roller. That's really great for that. And on top of that, I'm right-handed, but I'm using my left arm. And it doesn't tire me out at all. So now that it's well spread out, we cross over properly, we pick up the blade, it's all clean, and we start smoothing. So it doesn't matter in this direction or that direction, there's really no right way. Anyway, we're just starting out here. And the blade, you hold it as flat as possible against the wall, because if you tilt it too much, you'll remove too much compound. So here, against the walls, I don't make things too complicated for myself because I need to have my wall lining. I'm adding a bit and we'll clean it with the sponge. If we don't go to the edge, it's fine since I have my wall lining like I said, so it doesn't matter. There's a small spot we leave alone. Don't try to perfect it by overthinking. Oh shoot, there's a little hair there. I know what it is. It's a loose fiber from the roller. Don't touch it. It'll come off during sanding. And there you go. And now the result is perfect. There's still some roller fuzz. It's new, so it'll leave fuzz, but that's fine. I'll remove it when I sand. When we do the other area, we come back to the area with the filler. Always, because if I start doing that, of course, I'm going to mark the filler. We come back to the area with the filler, and if it makes what we call a knife mark, maybe it has another name, I don't know. The knife mark will go away when sanding. And here, if I press, of course, I'm going to make even more marks. We come back to the area with the filler and we don't wait for it to dry. Because if you wait for it to dry, what's going to happen? You're going to remove the filler that's starting to dry. So now we do this area, we smooth it out. But honestly, the filler here, nothing to complain about. I'll try to film it for you up close. Those are fibers from the roller. And when they're new, it always does that. You don't need to worry about it. Did you see how much compound I'm removing? I'm not taking off much. Tilting the blade more removes less. And here, what you see between the two patches, we don't touch it. It's not a problem, it'll go away when we sand it. It's not a problem if you see a patch. You don't need to try to make it perfectly smooth. A quick sanding and it'll go away. So I really prefer to be close to the surface. I was thinking about that while I was rolling. Actually, there's no pole on it. Maybe it'll be easier for you with a pole. But I really prefer to be close to the surface with the roller and the blade, because that way I can really see where I'm working. Also, even when smoothing with the blade, I can clearly see it. Okay, now the roller is really starting to work well. We've got compound everywhere. We keep going, we apply, we go back over the area. And so now the goal is to smooth toward the other area, the one we did earlier. Because if I put my knife into that area, like I told you, I'm definitely going to leave a mark. So we go back over it, and any overlap will be taken care of when we sand. It's been 3 days since I applied the compound, so it's dry. We can sand the ceiling now. The sander is here and I'll tell you about it. But first let's mark the ceiling with a pencil. So a pencil taped to a pole and we grid the ceiling, and when we sand, we'll erase the pencil marks. That way you don't miss any spots, because with a ceiling or a wall, when it's white, you can always wonder, did I already go over that part? I can't remember, and in the end, you waste a lot of time. If you mark everything with a pencil and sand over the marks, you won't miss any spots. So the sander is this one, the DWS 225. You have the reference and the link in the description, and this is what it looks like on top. We have a variable speed control, so it's 350 watts and it goes from 4,000 to 8,000 revolutions per minute. 225 mm pad. I put on a 240 grit abrasive. What I want is just to sand my ceiling. I'm not trying to strip and remove all the plaster. I just want to smooth it out and get rid of the spatula marks. And I'll definitely have some small touch-ups here and there. So I'll connect the sander to the vacuum cleaner to collect dust and plug the vacuum into the EcoFlow battery I showed you a few weeks ago. I told you I wanted to test it in real worksite conditions, and that's perfect because we have this 15 square meter ceiling to sand, so we'll be able to test its battery life. So this battery replaces a generator. If you don't have electricity on the worksite or even outside, you just take your battery, plug in your tools, and you can work. Well, I think I found the perfect combo. The sander, the exoskeleton, and the blue compound. A real wonder to sand. The EcoFlow battery is at 63%. I went from 98% to 63%, and I took my time. I didn't rush. I did my 15 square meters. The vacuum cleaner was plugged into the battery, the sander into the vacuum cleaner, so I have 63% battery life left on this battery. You have the link in the description for the EcoFlow battery, the sander, the blue compound, and of course the exoskeleton. The sander, the left arm is only there to guide, the right hand is on the speed selector. I did some tests at high speed, at lower speed, and it handles really well. It's a real pleasure, and yet I've often told you in videos, for me, pole sanders are kind of my nightmare because they mess up my neck. But a 3.5 kU sander that's ultra light with the exoskeleton, it's a real pleasure. The pad is a bit white, but it's still in good condition. It's 240 grit. I'm going to keep it for the walls because I'll have some joints to sand on the side. On the bathroom side, there won't be any skim coating since there will be tile, and in the hallway between the bathroom and the partition that leads to the house, there will be skim coating on the walls, so I'm keeping my pad. So we'll meet again in the next video, still with my arms in the air using the exoskeleton, a bit of plaster and some holes in the ceiling. You'll understand because I'm going to receive some specific recessed lights. I haven't received them yet, so I can't show them to you. We'll make the holes, install spotlights, run the electrical conduits for the spotlights, add insulation, and since I have my air barrier membrane, I'll show you a trick. to maintain the airtightness when installing the spotlights and the insulation. So thank you for watching this video. We'll see you again very soon, and in the meantime, take care.